there, this is Derek from Pacific Coast Auto, and welcome to my channel where I answer your questions every Sunday. So if you've got questions for me, put them in the comments section. You can ask questions about me living in Japan. You can ask questions about my kids. You can ask questions about my health if you want. But most of the questions are about my company exporting cars from Japan. And you probably noticed that I'm on the wrong side of the road here if you're in another country where they drive on the other side. And that's because I'm driving in Japan right now. And actually I'm driving on the road right now that they do illegal street races on. If you know about the places Daikoku Futo, I am right down the street from there, and so like 2 minutes drive from there. Kind of interesting. Anyways, I got my questions on the handy dandy voice recorder, so we'll get to them right away.
Brendan 2JZ says, I'm wondering when you place the clipboard on the hood, does that damage the car?
Okay, Brendan's asking about my personal channel. I'm sorry, not personal channel, my company channel, where we do the inspections of the cars. So any car that we buy from the auction, I do a little inspection video that is kind of half promotion and half for the customers to see, and it's included in a video report of about 5 different videos, including cold engine startup and blah, 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 and about 100 or so photos, 80 to 100. Anyways, so when I take those videos, I always compare the car to the vehicle's auction inspection sheet to see how the two of them compare, to see if they missed anything. And I put the clipboard on top of the hood while I'm translating the Japanese into English. And Brendan's wondering if this is going to damage the car. I think no. But the reason why I wanted to put this one into the question cast is because I want to hear other people's opinions. Do you think it's really bad to put a clipboard on the car? The clipboard's made out of cardboard. I don't think that it's going to damage the paint, but I don't know. Let me know what you think.
Cameron Carroll says, you're pretty cool, Derek.
Thank you, Cameron.
Possibly, could you get a Honda Beat Tour at an auction?
Okay, aside from my not being able to read that question properly, he was asking, can I get a video walk around of a Honda Beat? If somebody buys a Honda Beat, certainly I'll get the video walk around and it'll be in good detail like my regular videos are. But every once in a while when I go to the auction, I'll find an interesting car. Like just last week I posted one of a Mitsubishi Pajero Evo, which I think is an awesome car. And I just find these interesting cars and do a little walk around of them just because I like to be a car otaku. And so he's wondering if I could do one of a Beat. So the answer, Cameron Carroll, is I could probably do that the next time I see a Beat. But the thing is, those cars aren't very common. Sure, if you want to buy one, you can find one. But to be lucky enough to have one at the same auction that I'm at, because I don't actually go to the auctions very often in person, because we buy from 100 different auctions and it's just impossible for me to go to see the cars. That's my regular business, and so we don't. Plus, kind of the way that the market is, it doesn't allow companies to see the cars beforehand because everybody wants low price, low price, low price, and that doesn't allow us to spend very much time to, you know, see every car personally before we buy them. We go off the auction sheets. And so anyway, back to the question. The Honda Beat, if I see one, I'll get a video of them because I think that those cars are really cool. Those, the Cappuccino and the AZ1 are the 3K cars I'm really interested in. And the Beat is really cool because it's mid-engine and it's non-turbo but still has 64 horsepower, which is not bad for a 660cc engine. So almost 100 horsepower per liter. Okay, next question.
Ryan Hindenburg says, in the importing process, is the importing process for motorcycles similar to that of automobiles? Believe it or not, there are a few bikes that are only available overseas that can be quite desirable in the USA.
Okay, I've had this question a few times, and to be completely honest, my answer is I don't know bikes very well. I don't particularly like bikes. I know you can hate me if you want, but and I don't know the models, I don't know how they compare to one another, and I really like cars, and that's why I do this business, because I like cars. Probably, I know you can export bikes. They do have bike auctions here. I don't have access to the bike auctions, but every once in a while regular auctions do have bikes in them. I don't know about the shipping of them. I believe shipping has to be by container, but there may be a way to ship them row-row or roll-on, roll-off. At the end of the day, I really don't want to get into the bike market because that's not why I wanted to do this business. I didn't start the business because I thought it would be a good way to make money. It's because I want to work around cars all the time. And I don't want to be one of those people who pretends they know a lot about bikes when I actually don't. So there is that. My suggestion, just try another company. There are probably lots of companies that can do exports of bikes. And I think that Japan is a market that's got a lot of different bikes. I know that in Japan there are modern two-stroke bikes that were available, whereas most countries don't allow them because of emissions. Because a two-stroke bike requires oil to be burnt in order, because, you know, I don't know, I'm not going to get into how it actually works, but with just two strokes it intakes the fuel and then burns it in half the amount of strokes of the engine. So we'll just keep it as simple as that. Yeah, I guess that's going to be it.
Alberton 23 says, how different is the Skyline R32 GTS-T versus the GTR?
This is a good question because, okay, so the Skyline GTS-T, let's just start with the basics, is the regular Skyline. You can get them in 4-door and 2-door versions, and you can get them with, you can actually get them with a CA18 engine, so a 1.8 liter 4-cylinder, but those are really uncommon. The standard engine is an RB20 non-turbo, and then the GTS-T, the one he was asking about, is a turbo RB20, which is in an inline 6 turbocharged 2 liter. And then the GTR is a 2.6 liter twin turbo version of the same engine. That's where the similarities are, I guess, aside from the engine, and that's the basics of the difference between them. But if you actually tear the car down and see exactly what you're getting with each car, the GTR is a much, much different car than the GTS-T. When you drive them, it's a very, very different feeling of the car. So the GTRs are quite a bit more powerful than the R32 GTS-Ts. The engines, well, I don't know which engine is more reliable. I would say probably an RB20 because it's a lower state of tune per displacement. But the GTR engine is more of a race car engine as well. So the RB20, as far as I know, I could be wrong about this, but the RB20 I believe is hydraulic lifters inside, and it's only got one throttle body for your 6 cylinders, whereas the RB26 has one throttle body per cylinder, and it's got solid lifters inside, and it's noisy and it's brash, but it's a wonderful, wonderful engine. And so the difference between the engines is night and day. One of them is in basically your standard engine, and the other one is a race engine. Then when you drive the car, I mean, the engines are probably about the same weight. The GTR is a heavier car because it's got the 4-wheel drive system in it, and it feels a lot heavier than the GTS-T. Although it does feel like it handles a lot better than the GTS-T. They both have 4-wheel double wishbone suspension, which is really nice on a car of that era. And you know, some people prefer McPherson struts, especially if you're going to be drifting, but I prefer 4-wheel double wishbones for certain. The GTRs are a lot quicker, a lot more stable. That's kind of the biggest thing. When you go into a corner, you feel the stability and the lack of chassis twisting between the two. This is my experience. I know that there are people out there that have more experience driving the two. I've never owned either of them. I've driven, I think, 3 different GTRs, and I've driven like 2 or 3 GTSs, and so I don't have a lot of experience between the two. I used to own an R33 GTS and know that car really well, but the GTR really takes the cake. It's just so much more of a fun vehicle. And when you consider that the cost, like if you're in the US and you're going to be importing one, the cost difference is less than twice the price between the two. And when your cost difference is, you know, $6,000 between the two, I don't know. I think the GTR is worth it. If you can afford a GTR, go for it. But if you can barely afford a GTR, I would recommend going for a really nice GTS, or GTS-T, I mean.
Evan Brady has a long question here. He says, Derek, can you do an overview of the logistics involved in the inland transport?
Because this is such a long question, I'm going to break it up into parts. So can I do an overview of the logistics process? I guess so. It's kind of boring, but I'll answer the questions as they come.
As in, how the unusual and modified low cars are brought into the port on low loaders.
Okay, so when we buy the car from the auction calls us and they say, where do you want to send this car? And then we say, please send it to me. And unless I'm sending it to a repair shop or to a different port or whatever, I tell them the regular port that we send the cars to. Unlike a lot of exporters, we send only to the ports in my area because I personally check all the cars before they get exported. The standard thing for, I guess, the bigger volume and bigger exporters and the cheaper exporters than us is to send the car to the closest port to the auction and then have the port staff, which are not affiliated with the company, snap about 8 or 10 pictures of the car. I don't like this. I don't like the lack of service that this gives, and so we don't offer this service. I want to see every car that we sell personally, and to this day I've seen every car except for 2 cars, and that was because we just couldn't possibly get the pictures. When it comes to low cars and specialty cars, the auction will charge us an extra fee for those ones, and then the transport company works that out. I have had some damage to very low cars, but it's been very, very unlikely. For the transport from the auction to the lot, I've never had any problems. With some cars, sending them onto the Ro-Ro carrier, I've had like 2 front bumpers crack, but they were both like 1.5 or 2 inches off the ground, and so when your car is that low, there's not much you can do about it. Many of the cars that are lower than an iPhone size, which is pretty low, they ship no problem, no damage.
What difficulties it possesses for your staff to organize?
It doesn't. The difference in logistics has no bearing on our staff. It's all done by the transport company. They tell us which car that they want or which type of carrier that they want to transport the vehicles with, and then we just say yes. So, pretty simple.
It's not a hugely important topic, but something interesting for me. If it happens to be at the port, if you happen to be at the port while a lorry is autoloading and you are to record it, that'll be interesting.
Yeah, in case you can hear that because there's a lot of road noise in my car, it'd be interesting to get a video, he says, of one of the car carriers offloading the cars. Might be possible. The car carriers that take my cars off, take my cars to the port, also take other companies' cars to the port. And it's actually uncommon that I will be in the port at the same time as the cars are coming off of the carrier. This happened a few times, and I guess I could get a video of that, but the driver might think that it's a little bit strange, me recording a car coming off of the carrier. They might have policy that say you're not allowed to do that, so I don't know. If it's possible, I guess I'll get one, but you know, in the 6 years I've been doing this, only a handful of times I've ever seen my cars actually come off. Usually the cars come into the port, and then I go see them when they're already in there.
Also, is your storage yard quayside?
I don't know what quayside means, so I don't know if my storage yard is quayside. Sorry.
A pan shot would be cool for the nosy among us viewers. I've seen ships unloading, but a lot of viewers may not have an idea of the scale of the Ro-Ro vessels.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to get a picture of the inside of the port for people to see, but the downside is the port's going to be upset with me because there are cars from other exporters in there, and we're not particularly supposed to be getting pictures of those cars. There was one circumstance. Now, it's kind of a story I guess I shouldn't really get into, but there was an exporter that we used to work with. It was the first exporter that we worked with, and we accidentally spoke publicly about some of that exporter's cars, and we got in trouble for that, and so we have to be very careful not to look at or get any pictures of cars other than our own cars in the port, which is kind of a weird thing because, you know, if I take pictures of my cars, of course you're going to be able to see other cars in the port, and so I don't even know why I got in trouble for that. But, you know, publicly speaking about someone else's cars is a stupid thing, and I absolutely admit that.
Like Hope, Tokyo, and St. Petersburg.
Okay, St. Petersburg, I believe, is the biggest Ro-Ro vessel. So he says it'd be interesting for people to see the scale of those ships. And it absolutely is if you're up close. These things are like 10-story buildings that float in the water. And it's really weird to see them because the sides are completely flat. if you can go onto Google, take a look, put in Ro-Ro carrier and do an image search, and you'll get to see how really cool these things are. But it doesn't really hit you unless you've seen it up close, because especially when they're moving, they look really weird. It looks like they shouldn't be floating in the water.
Mike Heedy asks, here's my question. Is $4,000 a good amount to cover your fee, shipping, import tax to the U.S. domestic shipping from port to my house, and contingencies?
Okay, I don't like to answer this question in US dollars because when the exchange rate changes, it fluctuates the costs of everything. And so I guess I'll answer play the rest of the question.
Besides the price of the car itself, how much should I set aside for budgeting the aforementioned costs?
Okay, if you're on the West Coast, then shipping is about 130,000 yen. Our fee is 100,000 yen. Import costs are about $500, and that's billed in US dollars, plus 2.5% tax. If you're on the East Coast, everything is pretty much the same, but your shipping is about 170,000 yen. If the exchange rate changes, then, with the yen, you'll at least be able to tell what the costs will be. It's not completely like that, but this is a brief, I guess, simple version of it. When exchange rates change, then your cost of shipping also changes slightly. And so, yeah, if you really want to know how much you should, like if you want to buy a car and you're from the US and you want to know how much you're going to need to buy that car, send me an email and ask and say, I have this much money, is this enough to buy this car? Or what quality car can I get for this much money? And then I can help you out with that.
At about 8:20 in your video, you drive by a building with the same yellow cowboy hat logo that was on the Mini you just inspected. Remember the stickers? What is that place?
That place is Yellow Hat. Yellow Hat is a tire shop, just like in Canada, like a Canadian Tire. And I don't know in the States, I don't even know any of the tire shops in the States. There's Pep Boys, but they're not exclusively tires, right? In Canada, we've got like Cal Tire and a few others, I don't know. I used to work at a Cal Tire, probably the worst job that I've ever had. The manager was a complete idiot, so not good times. But I met some cool people, I guess. I don't know. I met one cool person there. If you're watching this video, then you know who you are, probably.
Stance asks, what is your top pick out of these three for a car to be your first car? 1, Nissan S13 240SX. 2, Toyota MR2 EW11. Number 3, Acura Integra DC4.
I'd pick the DC4, the Acura Integra. That's the 1.8 liter. It's got about 140 horsepower. Front wheel drive makes it easy as a first car, so that doesn't tempt you into trying to be a drift king, because young people do stupid things. And even if you're not a stupid person, you'll probably do stupid things if you're young, because I know I did. And there's nothing wrong with that. Just make sure that, you're trying to be safe. And I'm sounding like a grandpa here, but so many people think that once they get a car, they can do stupid things, and they don't think, and the adrenaline comes in, and it makes you make stupid decisions. And it doesn't mean that you're a stupid person, just don't be stupid with your car. And if your car is front-wheel drive and doesn't have that much power, then it solves that problem for you for the most part. Not for the most part, but at least for the drifting part, which is one of the more dangerous things that you can do. My first car was a front-wheel drive, really slow car. It was a Mini, but my second car was a Celica. It was rear-wheel drive Celica, and I remember thinking I was cool trying to slide the car in the rain. I never crashed, thank goodness, but yeah, probably the Integra is the one that I would recommend. The AW11s are too expensive if you get one in good shape without being rusty, and it's not a car that you can do the work on yourself and learn how to work on cars. The 240 is too expensive for what you get. That's just the fact of the matter with that car. They're really good cars, but if they were $2,000 less per car, I would recommend that. The Integras are just a better buy, more reliable than the Nissan, and you don't have to pay the drift tax on it.
On your main channel photo, are you holding your daughter?
Yes, but that's my daughter when she was 4 years old. She's wearing a kimono. I'm just holding her like that. And now she's 8, and so maybe I need to get a new photo of that.
Second question. In Japan, are you required to have a flare in your car?
Yes, you are. I have a flare in mine somewhere. You need to have a flare in your car. kind of a weird rule, to be honest. But they do use the flares here. When a car's broken down, they'll see a lineup of flares on the road. I've never used one. Oh, but you know, a lot of people want to have those flares, and then they get their car and they're like, where's my flare? Somebody stole it. But the thing is, flares are flammable and they can cause your car to catch on fire if you're shipping it. And so the carriers don't allow you to have flares in the car. So, excuse me, that's unfortunate.
Final question. Casey Shop says, hey Derek, can you review one of your daily driver cars? I know that it's a legacy wagon, but if you can do a quick review on it, it'd be much appreciated.
It's funny that they say one of your cars. I only have one car at the moment. Well, that's not 100% true, but for the most part I only have one car because I'm not rich. Even though I own a business and the business keeps me extremely busy, we don't make a lot of money for various reasons, and it's not a good industry to be in if you want to be rich, unless you want to steal from people. And so probably people who watch this channel know how much I hate people who steal, because it makes me have to work extra hard and then I get paid less than everybody else. And so that's certainly a frustration of mine. Okay, so my car, yeah, I would like to do a video walk around of it. I've thought about it a few times, but I've never really found the time to do it. One of the downsides of running a company is that you get to work about 80 to 100 hours a week and then never be on top of your work. And that's part of the reason why it takes so long for me to reply to new inquiries, because I'm always so busy with my current customers. I am in the process of trying to get some new help in, but I also have some other things I want to spend my money on too. And so one of our biggest problems is profitability per sale is really low, and so I'd like to really improve that. So that we can get enough money to hire somebody. And so it is what it is. But that being said, I kind of have two cars right now, because I've mentioned in one of my other videos that we bought a car for a customer and they didn't pay for it, and then the car is not selling for very much at the auction, and so I have technically two cars. I need to register that car under my name in order to sell it, which is a really strange thing. If you want to register a car, you need to register a parking spot, you need to register it under your name before you can get the registration for it, and then cars with registration sell for more than those without. And so I'm going to register this car, and technically I'll have two cars, and the next car is more exciting than this one, and so that's nice. It is a 500,000 yen GDA Impreza. There's a video of it on my regular channel, so you can check that out if you want. And if anyone on this channel wants to buy that car, I'll sell it to